Hello, friends. This is Mac Payne, the FOO of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. FOO stands for founder, owner, and operator of this podcast. I've been doing it for 12 years, put out over 3,200 episodes where I talked about the Vietnam War and the brave veterans who served there. The primary reason for doing this is I'm on a mission. I am on a mission to convince the world that the Vietnam veteran generation is as great as any that ever heeded the call of duty from our country. Often on this podcast, I will feature individual members of that generation. In the episode I just published, which is number 3208, I am refeaturing a Medal of Honor recipient that was covered back in episode 2899. In that episode, I described to you Staff Sergeant Lawrence Joel. Lawrence Joel served both in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Back in 1965, he was serving as a medic with the 173rd Airborne Brigade, my son's old unit. Joel did something very heroic back in 1965. He was out on a patrol with a unit from the 173rd, and they were ambushed by a bunch of VC. It was bad. They took a lot of casualties, but Lawrence Joel did not hold back. He went forward when he was told to take cover. Not Lawrence Joel. He had to go forward and take care of his men, which he did. He was wounded himself, yet he continued serving the wounded, even in a second battle that occurred. He was an amazing individual who did some amazing things for our country. His story was so inspiring. Matter of fact, I called him a saint back in episode 2899. His story was so inspiring that I had to cover it again in the form of sharing a letter that a fellow Vietnam veteran wrote about him. This veteran lived way out in the northern part of Idaho. He served in the 1st Infantry Division over in Vietnam, near where the 173rd was operating. He was aware of what Lawrence Joel did, and he wrote a letter about him. That is what is going to be covered in this podcast episode that I just published a few minutes ago, episode 3208. I highly encourage you to go over and listen to that podcast episode. When you hear the story of Lawrence Joel, you cannot help but agree with me when I say that the Vietnam veteran generation is as great as any that ever heeded the call of duty from our country. I have made it extremely easy for you. You don't have to go search for the podcast, Vietnam Veteran News. All you've got to do is go down below this 1960s vintage Philco TV set. All you've got to do is go down there and click on that link. It'll take you directly to the podcast website and directly to episode 3208. Do that, and I'll guarantee you'll be glad you did. So with that comment, I am ending this video. Thank you so much for listening, and please go over to the website and listen to the story of Staff Sergeant Lawrence Joel, a true American hero. Again, thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk soon.